The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue. Written and narrated by C. Taylor. Edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To read the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 21. From Sky's perspective, Sky looked at Jareth as they monitored their patient at the back of the healing transport. He nodded back at her, clenched his teeth in a silent confirmation of the order, and turned his attention back to the director. His vitals were strong and steady. His coloring returned, swelling reduced. Once they arrived at the healing center, they would easily remove the tube and close the hole. A few days on Millitrax, and there would only be the slightest scar. They will need to know everything you ate tonight. We'll probably focus on foods you tried for the first time, but food allergies can develop at any time. You will need to carry an injector at all times given the speed and severity of the attack. Sky explained the whole process to her patient, knowing how important it would be for him to know. His eyes stayed on hers. His face still looked scared, but she could feel the tension in his hand holding hers start to relax. They finally docked at the healing center and the hover bed was moved off the transport. The healing center was in chaos. Patients were being unloaded, new hover beds moved back onto transports and sped away to bring more injured. Every available healer was helping move the injured into the center to be evaluated, then as quickly as possible rushed to the proper treatment. Another hoverbed was loaded onto their transport and then it sped away. Sky and Jareth guided the director to his room, made sure he was settled and comfortable. Sky updated him with what he could expect. It looks like there's been some kind of event. You may need to wait a while for the tube removal, but you will still heal with only a minimal scar even if it takes some time. Just try to rest. Everything will be okay. There was a tear in his eye. Sky gently wiped it away. I'll monitor you, but Jareth and I need to go and see if we can help. I'll try to come back and check on you if I can. Hesitantly, he nodded his head, tightened his hand holding hers another moment before finally releasing it. That same moment, Jareth's hand at her back pressed harder, urging her to follow him. Back in reception, Sky confirmed her credentials as a master healer, clipped on the confirming badges while Jareth clipped on his. They moved to the locker room where the founder assistants helped them remove their former gala wear, and they slipped into sterile healer suits. After, they joined the effort to help the people that desperately needed it. While working, they learned there had been an incident at the port. A craft had misfired, slamming into the dock, damaging 3 other crafts and dozens of traders and port workers. The traders retreated at the medical station located at the port since they were not allowed past the gates. The workers, however, had been brought here, and at the current late hour, the few healers available were completely overwhelmed. Jareth and Sky worked like they had on Niobe, organized the healers, directed the patients to the correct treatment rooms after reviewing their initial scans. The administrators were about to call in reinforcements, but within the hour, all patients had received their initial treatments. Both Sky and Jareth were performing the few needed surgical procedures, and everything had quieted. Once all the critical cases were completed, they both agreed to remove the director's tube, the incision sealed, and he was resting peacefully with the mixture of Militrex and a sedative. It was still dark by the time they were done. Sky collapsed into a resting couch in the healer's lounge. Jareth soon joined, and they leaned against each other. I love watching you work. You're so good at it. I hope I can be as good someday. Jareth chuckled. If you haven't surpassed my skill already, you will by tomorrow. Then his tone grew more serious. I actually hated it when my uncle insisted I learn, he admitted. Sky let out a grumpy breath. I can see how it'd be beneficial to him. What did you want to be? Jareth went silent. I don't know. I was never asked. When I was old enough for it to be an option, I was too worried about surviving. He took her hand, ran his fingers through hers as he spoke. Do you feel safe enough to think about it now? She liked being able to ask him these questions. He turned to look into her eyes. Now, I love working with you so much, I would never even consider doing anything else. He brushed her lips with his. Sky leaned in to increase the pressure and was nearly lost. Okay, you two, this is a sterile environment. You will need to find a completely different building for this. Sky's eyes shot open. She pulled away from Jareth and stood to address her counselor. Master Healer Kahori, I apologize. You should, Miss Reno Dule. I need to meet with you now, please, he said sternly. Jareth cleared his throat. You have something to add, Diplomat Badawing? He looked even more irritated. My escort was given the night off. Until he returns, I'm not allowed to leave Miss Reno Dule's side. He took a deep, frustrated breath before conceding. Fine, in that case, we can do it here. Miss Reno Dule, when exactly did you become completely certified as a master healer? Sky swallowed, then answered. The day of our first meeting. How did you gain the practical certifications? At the Healing Center, I volunteered to test and assist with developing the devices and procedures for the healing arts. Because I helped with their development, I hold master level certificates for all the most current programs, devices, procedures, and systems for all the healing services. He watched her. She could tell he was trying to make sense of what she was saying. Then why did you ask to focus on pure research? I've reviewed video of your work tonight. You are a very gifted and capable healer. Sky hoped she could explain. I know what I am as a foundling. Master Healer Kahori tried to disagree, but Sky put up her hand to stop him. I've seen what my friends have gone through. If it was just me being laughed at, I wouldn't care, but I don't want to bring dishonor or disrespect to a service that I admire. At the same time, I still want to help. Damn it, Master Healer Kahori was looking at her like she was crazy. Why was she so bad at this? Finally, he looked down and nodded. I understand. I'm finding I'm already looking forward to reading your first thesis. If you ever change your mind, though, please know we will prepare an office for you, but it will have to be without a couch. His eyes were twinkling when they raised. The resource department will be unable to provide one. It will be all work with patients and potentially house calls with founder addresses if need arises. Sky smiled. You make a hard bargain. Now her counselor smiled. So you'll stay and work with us? Maybe someday, but not yet. Okay, he relented. Just promise me if you do, please give me more than an hour to prepare. Sky chuckled and nodded. Okay, sometime later. Without the order from Cade, Sky and Jareth visited the nourishment center for something to eat, then started making rounds to check their patients. They noticed a group of people outside the director's suite. One noticed her, ducked his head to say something, then pointed at her as he raised his hand. Everyone in the group turned to look at her. Sky's hand tightened around Jareth's. She forced herself to breathe steady as she braced for the unkind words she was sure she was about to hear. The director's wife rushed toward her. Was the wife going to strike her? Would she be able to stop Jareth from interfering if she did? At the last minute, Sky's courage vanished and she flinched back when the woman got within touching distance and raised her arms. Sky clamped her hand against Jareth's to hopefully prevent him from retaliating when the woman's arms wrapped around her and pulled her into a tight hug. Sky was so shocked it took her a moment to move her arms around the wife to hold her as the woman sobbed against her shoulder. Thank you. Oh, how can I ever thank you? I was so close to losing him, and then you saved him. The words came out in a rush, then stopped as the sobbing took over and she wasn't able to say more. It was my honor. Sky spoke softly to try and soothe her. The rest of the group moved toward her also, all murmuring their gratitude for her and Jareth. Jareth accepted the grateful handshakes from everyone to allow Sky to continue to hold the weeping woman. The director's daughter stepped forward, gently pulling her mother away from Sky to hold her. My father would like a moment with you, if that would be okay, she offered quietly. Sky nodded and walked with Jareth into the room. The director looked tired, but relaxed, no fear anymore. You are looking better, although rest wouldn't be a bad idea right now, she offered. The director chuckled weakly, the Militrex already healing him enough to use his voice. I wanted to thank you personally now that I can. What you did at the gala without anesthesia and I didn't feel a thing. How did you do that? Sky smiled. She found the paths where nerves were missing when working on developing the helix to perform certain surgeries. She wondered if it was possible to perform emergency surgical procedures if a helix was not available. That's when she saw it, the paths, how the nerve lines ran. She and Kyla used that idea when developing and altering both Sueña and Consortium security patrols. I read a lot. She used her still favorite explanation. She felt Darrow stifle a chuckle. The director just looked content, albeit slightly confused by her answer. I didn't get to announce the special allowances we've agreed to extend to you. He looked excited to tell her. Sky flinched involuntarily. I am truly grateful for your extremely kind consideration. However, might I request that it be postponed for a short time? I'm trying to adjust to life outside the founder family circle, which has proven to be more painful than I anticipated. I fear the allowances will prolong the separation process. The director nodded his understanding. I hadn't realized. I apologize if I caused you any additional distress. I will discuss this with the council, but under the circumstances, I feel confident they will be happy to adjust to your wishes. I thank you for your kindness. Now, as you are still my patient for another 5 minutes, I must insist that you rest. Sky moved his covers more securely over him, then left with Jareth. They both accepted the gratitude of the group outside the room before finally making their way to her cruiser that she had moved remotely to the healing center. One quick flight, and they were back at her penthouse. They barely made it in the door before Sky shifted, looped her arm around his neck, and pulled him hard to kiss him. If his urgent response, the one that had her body pounding and panting, was any indication, Dareth needed the same thing. She clung to him. She smelled the inside of her apartment, heard the door close, signaling she could start tearing his clothes off. Moments later, there was an explosion. Jareth jerked away from her and dropped to the ground, not moving. An acrid smell hit her nose. She staggered from the jolt of him dropping her and the shock of the sound. Her mind raced to make sense of what was happening. Someone had blasted Jareth. He needed help. She focused on him, not noticing the stranger that was in her apartment, the one that had just blasted Jareth. Didn't notice him changing the settings on the blaster, then aim at her. One more pull on the trigger. Sky dropped. From Baron Moray's perspective, the Baron couldn't contain his giggle as the test subject he'd used carried his prize into the cell. He wouldn't approach her until she was fully bound, even though she was completely unconscious. The subject connected the wrist cuffs, then at her ankles. Then he pulled the main line connected to all the restraints to make sure her limbs were completely immobile. He tapped his screen, and his subject left the cell to stand at one corner of the Baron's playroom. He squealed in excitement that his brilliant plan had worked. By setting Sky up for the murder of a diplomat, he ensured she had nowhere to go. Even if she escaped, all forces on Sueña and the known universes would hunt her. If caught, she would face execution. He was now her only hope, leverage he would use to get whatever he wanted from her. She was now his. He had had playthings before, mainly newlings that had no other choice if they wanted to stay. He'd never had a founder before. Plus, she was the one that Trald seemed to need so badly. He finally had an edge he could use against the man who dared to frighten and disrespect him for so long. He licked his lips as he stepped closer to her. His hand reached for her. His large midsection required he bend over to be able to touch her. His hand slipped under her plain healer suit she was wearing. His mind raced to all the outfits he would put her in, the pretty girl, clubber, nightwalker, all while he used her for what he wanted. Then he could loan her out as Troll needed for whatever project since she had proven so helpful over the years. His hand slid and pinched hard, and he relished the gasp it produced from her. Her body started to move. She was coming round. He pinched her harder. Her eyes shot open and she writhed in pain. Her face was perfect when it reacted in pain. So beautiful. He needed her to feel scared and vulnerable while he explained her new reality. The impact of helplessness was so much better this way.
Ah, you're awake. Let me be the first to welcome you to my playroom, but you'll get to know it as your new home.
Her eyes shot around. There, there it was. The first flash of terror. Oh, how he loved this moment. She started to wriggle. This was going to be fun. his hand raised and sharply struck, edited for content.
Anything I want from you, anything I want you to do. This is my playroom and it is done. Do you understand?
She didn't yelp, didn't even flinch, just watched him. Her expression started to unnerve him. She thought she was still in control. He needed to teach her that she was not. He grabbed her face roughly to make sure she didn't look away as he spoke.
I know you think there is hope, but there is not. I'll bring you my girls so they can tell you you don't have a choice. You don't even have a say. You can't stop me.
His spittle splashed across her face, but she still just watched him. Defiant girl. He needed to see all the hope and her will leave her eyes. Why wasn't it leaving her eyes? His lip curled. He was going to love telling her what he did.
There was an incident in your apartment. Diplomat Badwin was murdered. All the evidence I left have proven by now that you were the one that did it. Outside these walls, you are already being hunted on both Serenia and throughout the known universes. There is no escape that doesn't end in your execution. Your survival depends on me and your ability to make me happy. Do you understand?
Her face didn't look afraid, just angry. She could prove to be harder to break than he thought. He had time. She would learn. He would teach her. Her jaw clenched, then her mouth opened. Do you have enough yet? He chuckled at her question. She didn't understand this was nowhere near enough. He noticed movement outside the cell in the direction he had left his test subject. He heard a click, then everything went black. Earlier, Sky and Jareth were walking away from the director's suite when they finally heard Kate again. Guys, you can return to Sky's apartment, react how you would to what happens next. No one will get hurt, but we need to let Sky be taken. Jareth's hand flexed in Sky's. She tightened her hand in his comfortingly. Both clenched their teeth twice to confirm they understood the instructions. Later, after Sky was taken, Kyla and Cade came from the hall in Sky's apartment where they were concealed. They rushed to where Jareth lay motionless. Kyla had altered the instructions to only stun Jareth, then changed the settings for show, before also stunning Sky. The Baron would assume everything went as he instructed, but in reality no one was hurt. Cade administered the medication to revive Jareth. All three rushed to the chameleon that was still camouflaged and hovering at the far end of her balcony. Kyla accessed the Baron's assistance tracker she reactivated in the coding and the one in Sky's cruiser. Both were headed in the same place. Kyla cursed Origin City, of course. No wonder they could never find it. It was so obvious now. Why hadn't they thought of it? They hovered close to another abandoned building in Origin City. Kyla and Jareth watched the screen, waiting for Sky to wake. They needed recorded proof of what he had done and what he had been doing. They heard her gasp, then another, and her eyes opened. She kept her eyes on him, making sure to catch every word until they had enough. Jareth cursed at the first slap, then had to walk away as the others sounded. The fool explained his whole plan, and Kyla caught every word. The moment she asked if they had enough, she tapped her tablet to execute the test subject's next orders. Yes, Sky, I got it, and we're on our way. They rushed to the building's entrance, using the roof access this time, and waited for it to be opened by their assistant. From Sky's perspective, Sky wiggled to lower her top as she watched the test subject leave the room. She looked around while she waited to be released. Everything the newlings described was there: ropes, chains, tools. Cold, painful chills ran down her body as the numerous stories replayed in her head. How many had she held while they cried? How many had unalived themselves rather than continue to live with the pain he caused and the fear of not knowing when he would come for them again? It all ended tonight, finally. She and Kayla had been trying to locate this hellhole for years. It was every bit the nightmare she had imagined, what had been described to them. She looked at the worthless sack of flesh crumpled to the floor. His grand plan of using her would be his final act of cowardice and cruelty. She had a hard time pulling her eyes away from him when she heard the others enter the room. She felt Jareth's hand on her face, but she mostly felt numb. More pressure, and her eyes finally moved, meeting his, and her emotional wall gave a little. She felt the tears sting her eyes. His hand soothed the painful skin at her cheek. Then his thumb gently wiped away a tear that streamed toward her hair. The tension in her arms and legs eased, cuffs were removed. Kyla and Jareth helped her up, which she didn't need, but it confused her how much she liked it. Cade placed the case on one of the tables. She didn't look at any of the equipment around the room. She needed to focus, and rage would be a distraction. The implant was there along with the material mix she needed and an added element. She mixed the additional element into a small amount of the material mix, then took the implant and made the wish. The implant's near identical twin appeared. Jareth took the implant. Both Cade and Jareth had to pull to get the Baron face down and in the position Jareth needed. The implant was placed in an extractor. He lowered the mini screen over his eye to see the exact placement, then lowered the implant and forced it into the nerve cluster at the base of his head. Once it was mostly in and lined up correctly, he used the flat end of the extractor and pushed it home. That's it. Perfect, Jareth, Kyla confirmed. She tapped her screen, executed some rudimentary commands, watched as his hand flinched and leg kicked while he was still knocked out. Looks like we're good. Should I execute now? Sky moved forward. Before you do that, Jareth and Cade, would you please help me roll him over? All three exerted themselves to complete the task. Sky stepped between his legs and kicked hard. Take that, you sick coward! She screamed, then kicked again. Kyla joined, adding her own assault. Angry tears ran down their faces as both men pulled them away and held them until they calmed. Kyla turned her head as it pressed against Cade's chest, her eyes catching Sky's. She nodded toward her to see if she was ready. This time, Sky nodded back. Cade continued to hold Kyla as she tapped to initiate the command. The Baron's body jolted. He made no sound, even though everyone was sure he was in excruciating pain. He wouldn't be able to speak, wouldn't be able to control his own body. Kyla was in control, complete control, and right now the Baron had a mission they needed him to complete. It took several minutes for him to push himself up from the floor, eyes open but no expression, lips didn't even twitch. No way for him to give voice to his pain and fear. Kyla had him stop right in front of her. Her eyes were cold. Sky knew whatever she said, the Baron wouldn't like it. You are mine now, to do what I want, when I want. Isn't that what you told them? All of them? What you said you would do to me once I completed the task? Completed the implant that is now exactly where it needs to be in the base of your brain. Everyone watched him, no sign of reacting to her words. Now you will help us destroy the lab, all the records, reduce any evidence this implant ever existed to ash, and you will be at its center. As you go and obediently do as you're ordered, know we will be watching and enjoying your pain, your fear. When it happens, understand your head will be the first to be destroyed. Without another word, she resumed the instructions. Baron Moray walked past them to a transport that Kyla had ordered from Sky's penthouse as they prepared their counter to Moray's plan. It would fly him to a corner of his garden currently being patrolled by Inspector Hoffendorf to await his trip to the lab the next day. Once the Baron entered his transport, Kyla turned to Sky and Jareth. You need to get back to Sky's apartment as quickly as possible. I delayed the escort and pilot's return, but the suns will be up soon and they will be required to escort Jareth to the port today. Jareth's hand closed over Sky's and he gently pulled her to the door. Sky pulled away and rushed to Kyla, hugging her close. We did it. We finally did it. Thank you, Kyla. She shook as she said the words. She felt Kyla tremble also. Thank you, Sky. The girls held each other a moment longer. Kate and Jareth gently pulled to separate them, then they departed for the next few hours. Sometime later, Sky docked her cruiser at her apartment. She was exhausted, mentally drained, but her body was still throbbing. Jareth, also clearly exhausted, was resting deeply next to her. She took a minute to rest and just watch the most amazing man she'd ever known. The visitor transport, along with its pilot and Jareth's escort, docked next to them. They both looked at her resting against her controls and chuckled. Then she turned her head to look at them, and they both flinched. "Whoa, that looks painful," Jareth's escort exclaimed. Sky remembered her cheek. "A flailing patient? It looks worse than it feels." She lied. It was stinging like hell. "We heard you guys had one hell of a night," the pilot added. "We did. How was yours?" Sky realized she liked them. "We were called to help with the ports the same as you. The port officers wanted us to thank you for taking such good care of their workers last night." She felt Jareth's arm around her waist, apparently woken by their conversation. "They're welcome, but they can't have her." He spoke with drowsy gravel in his voice. The other two laughed. "They will be very disappointed, but we'll tell them." None of that made sense to Sky, but she knew better than to ask questions. Playfully, she let herself be picked up by Jareth, flung over his shoulder, and carried that way into her apartment. "Have you both eaten?" she asked over Jareth's shoulder. "Yes, but thank you." Jareth turned to face them. "My uncle's agreement extends until I leave for the port. I won't be ready for a few hours if you want to enjoy your day. I'll send a signal when I'm ready." "Deal. Have fun, Jareth," they said right before they sped away. "You let them call you by your first name?" she asked as he continued to carry her all the way to her bedroom. "Yeah, they're the same ones that always escort me. We're good friends by now." He flipped her onto the bed once they were close. "Now, let me look at your face." She only winced slightly when he cupped her chin. "It's less red, but it's starting to swell." "There's a cream in my washroom." Sky moved to get it. Jareth's hand pressed against her stomach to stop her. "I'll get it." He moved off the bed and came back with the cream. "You keep this with you?" he asked as he gently applied the cream to her cheek. Sky nodded. "Just from simulations?" Sky shook her head. Jareth's jaw twitched. "How often have you and Kyla been on missions like this one?" "Like this one? Just the one. We've been looking for that room for years." "How many missions in total?" This quieted Sky. "A few," she admitted. "How often have you needed this cream after a mission?" His eyes had a fierceness she hadn't seen before. "Not many," she admitted softer. She heard Jareth curse under his breath as he finished covering her stinging skin. "Now the others." "Others?" Oh, then Sky remembered and turned red. "Oh, I can do that," she offered and tried to take the cream. Jareth's hand holding the cream moved away. "As your healer, I am duty-bound to ensure you are properly cared for." Her eyes warned him to pass the cream. He sat back on his heels and raised his eyebrows. Her eyes narrowed at the challenge, but also smiled, feeling the flutter in her stomach. Her hands grasped the bottom of her shirt, and she slowly raised it, watching his eyes as it moved. He sucked in his breath when he saw them. Sky hadn't looked before, but remembered the sting there. She looked down, saw red, angry skin. Edited. "Do you like it?" The question was soft from him. She didn't sense any judgment. "Pain just for the sake of pain? No." She started to explain, then wondered if she could put into words how it was different with him. "When I'm with you, I feel so much pleasure. It's dizzying. It's like I'm floating away and lost." "It should be good, but I don't understand it, and it starts to scare me." She watched him as she spoke, trying to make sure she didn't say anything wrong. "Then I feel you touch me, strong enough that I feel a slight pain. I recognize it. It grounds me, and it makes me feel safe. It lets me know I can feel pleasure without getting lost, that you're there and you have me. The stronger the pleasure, the more I need to feel you. I'm not afraid of pain, and when we're together, I need it to know I'm okay. I don't know how else to explain it." Jareth's eyebrows relaxed. His hand extended to smooth the cream over the raw skin. The tablet Kyla had given them chimed. Sky moved carefully as to not disturb Sheriff's work that was feeling wonderful. The video that started streaming showed a feed from the Baron's playroom, every detail that anyone who had been there would recognize on a frequency their secret organization used. Soon a flame erupted, quickly grew, and then engulfed the hateful room. All the devices and machines melted, snapped, and broke. Sky checked and noticed the stream was open from everyone on the frequency. She hoped all the newlings that had survived the Baron and lived in fear of his return would find some peace that the hateful place was destroyed. Soon they would also get word that he was gone. Another stream dinged on a frequency from the chameleon that only they could see. Through the Baron's eyes, they watched him leave the transport and make his way to the lift that would take him to the lab. The screen started to shake, the only sign he was fighting in vain against his body's movements still silent. Another screen appeared in the corner of the video. This screen was a live feed from the lab itself. Many workers noticed their victims were missing, access codes weren't working, they couldn't get into the vault or retrieve their research. Surprise had started to turn to panic right when the Baron entered the lab. Sky knew what was coming, but didn't look away, Jareth next to her, his arm around her in support as they both watched. The Baron just had to move to the center of the lab, and he was nearly there. There was a spark at the back of his neck, then his head disappeared in a mist of red. His body slumped. At the same time, the far wall of the lab exploded. Then the next wall, the third wall, another flash. The feed went dark. It was only then Sky realized she was shaking. Eyes blinking, she monitored her feelings. Now that they had finally completed a part of what they had been working toward for so long. The Baron liked to inflict pain and fear. I don't think he liked experiencing it very much. Her words came out in a whisper. She tapped back to the video feed of the playroom. It was nearly gone now. Nothing left to rebuild, and no one left who would. Does it feel like you thought it would? Jareth asked gently. He wasn't pulling away in disgust, just pulled her tight to him. No, I thought there would be some sense of relief. I just feel sad, but know if we hadn't done this, so many people would still be terrorized and new ones pulled into his nightmare. He pulled her closer. She pulled at his top. He pushed at her bottom. Soon they were connected, Jareth leading, as they watched each other. There are others, so many others, that are doing this and worse. She breathed, writing buzz, but not allowing it to carry her away yet. I know, Jareth confirmed. We'll get them too, I promise. Sky gasped, pleasure building, ready to take her. Please don't be gentle, I need to feel you, she reminded him. Jareth growled, I promise that too. He braced his arm against the wall above her and made sure she felt him. Hours later, she was with him at the port, videos streaming their farewell everywhere. The story of their previous night had been released, and now Sky was nearly as popular as Jareth. The images he refused to take alone at the gala were now endlessly more valuable than any with just him. Relations officers were in a frenzy. Sky kept her hand in his, her breathing steady and her heart rate normal. The focus served as a nice distraction from the chaos around her. He signed all the required paperwork to conclude his visit, handed his bags to port security, then turned to her before he went through the scanners she couldn't pass. He wrapped his arms around her, lifted her, and kissed her hard, cradling the back of her head to hold her to him. Her hands closed into his shirt and pulled him near. Sky vaguely heard cheering behind her. Lights flashed like strobes, and all she wanted to do was be alone with him again. That would have to wait until they were back on the warship. He put her down, and she felt a physical pain as he pulled away. I want to see you again, he said for the videos, his forehead pressed to hers. Sky smiled and nodded. Tears erupted again. Jareth's escort tapped him on the shoulder to remind him he needed to go through the scanner. One last quick peck, and he was gone. Questions were yelled at her before she even turned around. Miss Ranodule, will you see him again? Here we go. I'm sure you know Diplomat Badwin is a very busy man. He was unable to commit to a return visit at this time. Will you be returning to your healing center duties? Director Kahore has generously agreed to allow me to start my career in the healing services by doing research. That will be my focus for the foreseeable future. Later, she made her way back to her apartment. Kate had arranged replacements for the original extraction team since they would finally be returning to the warship to continue their training. One of the replacements had a hot drink and snack ready for her. Thank you. Do you need me to show you how anything works? He shook his head. No, my instructions are to order necessities through your screen to be drawn to a remote and unspecified location in the forest. The drone is a clone program. The resources are diverted here, and I live off them until I am to be replaced. Sky smiled. Kyla and Cade were so good at details, something Sky struggled with. Sounds exactly right. We'll try to get back before you get bored. Please take your time, he offered while taking another bite of whatever he just prepared. Thank you, Sky told him. She checked that her auto response was set to the message she was enjoying some time in the forest and wouldn't be reachable until she returned if anyone tried to contact her. The clothes and other supplies had already been moved to the chameleon. All that was left was for her to meet Kyla and Cade. She waved goodbye to the soldier and climbed into her cruiser. Cade piloted them off the planet. Kyla and Sky leaned against each other as they watched their home glisten in the sun's light. How long do you think it will take them to find the Baron and release that he's dead? Sky asked. Kyla thought a moment. I estimate 2 months. It's going to take them time to identify the body, at least what little there will be left of it. After that, the public relations department will need time to come up with a heroically tragic story to explain it. Sky smiled. And that's when we leak him admitting to his crimes in his own words. Kyla nodded. I'll have to edit the part about Jareth, but no public relations officer will be able to fix it. It's finally begun. Sky breathed this new reality. Yeah, it's finally begun, Kyla confirmed. The chameleon jolted. Sueña disappeared once they entered deep space. Cade moved away from the controls. Sky, will you monitor? It was a question, and it wasn't a question at the same time. Sky jumped to her feet and sat in the now empty chair. She noticed Cade take Kyla's hand, and they left the bridge together. She watched the screens, the dark swirls that had so frightened her a few weeks earlier when she first left Sweeney, knowing her entire world would never be the same. This time she had hoped that they would be okay and had a chance to fix what had been broken. Their game had finally begun.